All right, guys, I'm really excited. Today we have Jessia Stansberry here with us today. She's not only a fellow YouTuber with over 145,000 subscribers on YouTube, but she's really an inspiration for all of us here, the online entrepreneurial space. Her channel is like doing everything that I talk about and like praise and other people on YouTube that are just kind of living out of the norm, doing something different that they're not only passionate about, but making full-time incomes and showing people, that pathway, especially for people that, may not, have enough confidence to do it or just are afraid or feel too alone. Her channel inspires and helps entrepreneurs to grow their income by teaching them how to create content that sells for you and work less by selling more. So I'm super excited. You guys, her link to her channel is going to be at the bottom of this interview. But overall, thank you so much, Jessia, for tuning in with us today. I've been a fan. Your content is awesome. So yeah, I'm just like really curious to start this whole thing off is, where did you come from? What's your story? Where did you start from? What did you try that may have not have worked? And how did you get where you are now with literally having this much of loyalty and this much following of, helping people online?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited. I love to do stuff like this. So it'll be fun. It'll be like a party, Um, so basically, I went to college and had always kind of side hustled in college. I've always been a little scrappy when it comes to like, I need more money kind of scenario. I've been working since I was 14 because my parents wouldn't buy me a cell phone. So I went and got a job under the table at a restaurant that would pay me cash because I wasn't allowed to work at 14. You can't get a work permit here until you're 15. And so like that's just always been my mindset is like, well, how can I make this happen? How can I make this work? So I always side hustled a little bit in corporate. I did photography for a little while and graphic design because that was my degree is in advertising. So I had quite a bit of experience in graphic design coming out of college. And then I had a baby. So I got married and in like when I was in corporate and then hated my job. Like I hated my corporate job. I was in customer service and it was terrible. And they treated me terrible. And just like the whole, what most people's corporate experience is. And we had our first son. And I was like, you know what? I'm not doing this. Like, I just don't want somebody else to raise him. I don't want to send him to daycare every day. I just can't do this. And so I ended up quitting my job, but we could not afford for me to quit my job. Like there was no world where we could afford that. So I started doing graphic design. I picked that up and then I taught myself web design. And so from 2010 to 2015, I actually had a graphic and web design company while I stayed home with my son and then eventually had another son. And then in 2015 was kind of the year when I discovered that you could make money teaching things on the internet, you know? So up until that point, I'd done a service. I'd always just been a web designer or graphic designer. And I discovered the world of like online courses and podcasts and YouTube channels. And in 2016, I started my YouTube channel and the rest is history. I quit doing web design that year and went all in, creating content and selling courses and, making money in that way.
So 2016 is when you really made that. And I think that's so awesome because I hear so many people, especially people that have kids, that are just like, they get stuck and they're like, I can't do it. And I just think that's so awesome, especially because you were like, it's even scarier almost when you're coming from that corporate side, but you were just coming from the corporate side knowing that it was going to be like scary, but you also like have this other thing where you're like, wait, I have to take care of like other lives.
Yeah.
That's like really freaking huge. So when you first started, really diving in, what did you try? Like what was like the biggest hurdle? Even if it's just like mental or just like being hard on yourself, what was like the biggest hurdles that you had to overcome in those first beginning things before you really grasped that momentum and like this is a thing, like I'm crushing it.
Yeah.
Feel like you got the momentum finally.
Yeah. I would say the biggest thing, and it's totally mental because it always is, right? Like it's always a mindset thing. was taking myself seriously, treating my business like a business and not like a hobby. And because, I mean, I had always seen it as a hobby. It was just a side hustle. And then it was just a side hustle so I could stay home. Right. And it was a side hustle so I could quit my job. It was a side hustle so I didn't have to go to work and send my kids to daycare. So I'd always kind of seen everything as just like just a little business. It's just a little business to help me put groceries on the table, you know? And I think there was somewhere in that 2015 mark, we sold our first house and moved into like a cheaper home. Like we downgraded quite a bit, and our mortgage payment was less, and we had like less financial responsibility a little bit, and it enabled me to kind of step back and look at my business and where I wanted it to go, because that was the year my oldest was then going to go to kindergarten. And then I was like, okay, well, when my youngest goes to kindergarten, your girl's going to have to get a job if I can't make more money than I'm making right now, you know? And so I had to, I think at that moment, there was something about like, it was like the perfect storm where I was like, I just have to take it seriously. Like, I can do this and I can absolutely do this. I just have to take it seriously. And that one mindset shift literally changed everything.
And did someone help you get there, or was this just like you read some books or no books and you're just like, no, there's just this fire and I'm just gonna go?
Yeah.
You know,
No, it was for sure podcasts.
really?
For sure.
Okay.
Yeah. So I can say without a shadow of a doubt that like for whatever reason I discovered podcasts that year, and the first podcast I listened to was definitely not like a business podcast. It was, you know, I don't know. I don't even remember now, but like I just found a podcast somewhere along the way. And from there found business podcasts. And I don't know if you've ever listened to the Being Boss podcast. I don't know. Have you listened to that one?
I know the Instagram like account. It's
Yeah.
like a blonde girl, right?
Yes. Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's Emily Thompson now. But back in that time, it was her and Kathleen Shannon. And somehow I found this podcast, and Emily is Southern like me. And turns
Mhm.
out she even lived in my town for a while. Like, it was like a really weird like parallel, because she was
Mhm.
also a web designer. She was Southern. She like, and my accent held me back for a long time because we were taught in school that like we shouldn't talk like this if we want to be successful. Like, we were taught
Mhm.
that. Oh, 100%. I went to college. Yeah, I went to college a town over from like where I live now, and I was in the communication department, and we had to like I forget what they call it, but take different classes from all the different like concentrations. And so my concentration was advertising, but one of the other ones was broadcasting. And so I had to take a broadcasting class. And I remember the professor walking in and telling us all, because we were all like Southern kids, you know, it was like in-state tuition. There wasn't that many kids like who weren't from there, walking in and being like, if you guys ever want to make a living with your voice, you have to not have an accent. And like, and it's so funny to me because it's like literally that's the reason people even remember me now, you know? And I
Yeah.
literally make a living with my voice, you know? So
So
yeah,
interesting. That's so backwards. Like it's
yeah,
no 2022.
totally.
No.
No.
Oh,
Yeah.
so besides that, with just the voice, was there any other backlash that you received, like from your family or friends? Just people like definitely
Yeah.
like
For
okay.
sure. For sure.
Sorry.
Especially like, well, okay. So in the beginning, it was more of just them not taking me seriously. But now looking back, I wasn't taking myself seriously either. So like, how could they take me seriously if I wasn't doing it to myself? But when I started on YouTube, oh my gosh, you know, people are like, "What are you doing?" Like, "Oh yeah, she puts everything on the internet," or I would get these like little snide comments. I still do sometimes. Like, somebody recently in my family said something about me putting my whole life on the internet. And I was like, I literally talk about business. I'm not I'm not putting my whole life on the internet, you know?
Not a
Um,
Kardashian.
no, right. I don't have a reality show, you know? And it bothered me at the time, but then I was also like, they just don't understand. And they're also like, they're so far removed from this world that they don't get it, you know? Um, but yeah, like people not taking me seriously was probably like the biggest thing in the beginning, and and a big hurdle to get over, you know? It was like, I
Then it's
don't
almost,
know.
yeah, you almost then you're like, then you always kind of play down what you're doing, even though you're like,
Mhm.
no, I want this to be my full-time thing. But like Oh no, well, yeah, I
Yeah.
get you.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That is. There's just so much mental battles, and I always say it's like what, like 80% actually mental, and then the 20% actually just doing the work.
For
It's
sure.
like so. Right now, what would you say on your channel, like your main core teachings? I kind of like say it's like a branch with YouTube. Like you got the tree stump, but then you have like all these branches and sources of income. So for your channel or for you personally, because you're teaching people to acquire these things that you've done, right? You're living proof of that. What are your main branches of that tree of like income that you're really showing people how to do?
Yeah. So I really focus on content creation, either from the influencer standpoint or the business standpoint, right? Like you want to create content to grow your business or you want to make the content the business, right? And so I teach courses. So I have a course on YouTube, like how to grow on YouTube. I also have courses on like how to create a course so that you can do this yourself. And I have, lots of like digital products floating around that help people do those things. But it really all comes back down to the trunk being content creation, content marketing, and passive income from that content.
Right. And out of your right now, would you say you're like besides YouTube, because YouTube alone, right? Like regardless if you're going to launch a course, right? You got your YouTube channel that pays your AdSense. You
Yep.
got your affiliate sponsors. If anyone buys anything from you have your sponsors, and then you have your own products, and then physical product, what other things you sell. So for you personally, what would you say is your biggest driver right now? It's your course?
It's my courses. Yeah. That's always been kind of top priority for me. And then secondary would either be, I haven't looked at it in a while and I feel like it might have flipped somewhere in there, but either be YouTube AdSense or sponsorships kind of
Mm-hmm.
in the secondary spot, and then affiliates would be third, and then they kind of trickle down from there on the other ones. But hands down, by and far, like courses and things that like where I charge people to come to workshops or whatever would be number one for sure.
Yeah, I just saw you spoke at a huge event. Tell us
Yeah.
about that. Yeah, what was that event about?
Yeah, so that's social media marketing world, and in our industry, it's a really big deal to speak there. I don't know why. It's just one of those like I'm gonna speak at social media marketing world situations. And so I went. Gosh, I think I went the first time in 2017, maybe 2018, and then I went again in 2019, and I like made it my mission to speak there, and I did. So I'm very excited about it. But I love to speak. That's probably like one of my favorite pieces of this job and like pieces of the fact that I'm on YouTube. So it's literally a roster of all of our like how we would speak and how we would do the things. And so it's easy to get speaking deals. Um, so I love to speak and I'm excited for like conferences to start picking back up because that was my first one since 2020. So I
Mhm.
think that made it even more exciting because it was like the first one I had been wanting to speak there, and it was just it reignited my love for all the things speaking.
Manifested it. You said that
Yeah,
was going to, yeah, totally
yeah.
real. So who would you say is like your like for you and your YouTube channel, your courses, what is like your ideal like customer avatar? Who are you speaking to? Who are you seeing really find success in your program? Or I mean, I'm sure everyone gets success in your program, but like really, really interested in your program. What does that person look like?
Yeah, so they're generally a business owner or someone who wants to be a business owner who is trying to make money from their content, not constantly be out there hustling and like word of mouthing everything, but trying to create content, whether that's on YouTube or TikTok or Instagram or wherever, to actually feed into their sales. So generally a business owner, sometimes it comes the opposite way and it's the content creator who wants to turn that into a business. So it really just kind of depends, but those are kind of the two core people that it falls into. Somebody wanting to make money from their content.
And you literally can talk, like, as long as there's value or something to talk about, like anything, like you could be talking about like how to start a beauty salon. Like it's
Yeah.
so possible. What is like the most like different or like unique type of customer that's come through and you're like, I want to talk about this thing. Like what was it? Like,
Soap. Making
so,
soap. Mhm. Yep.
oh, Oh,
I had a student. Yeah, I had a student like right when I launched my YouTube Rockstars course, which is the name of my course for YouTube. And she came through and she makes soap and she teaches people how to make soap. And I was like, this is the best niche I've ever heard of. Like I just because it's not one you would think of, it's not like where your head would go. So soap would be probably the most interesting one.
and she's like making like those trendy TikTok
Yeah.
videos about
Yeah.
making soap.
Yep.
That is so crazy. Actually, there's this girl I know. She doesn't do soap, but she does the Cricut maker. It's like with stickers or something.
Yeah.
Cricut, and it's like, all she does is teach it to people. Like, guys, this is crazy. You can literally make money doing it. Like, as
Seriously.
far as there's value. So I guess the journey, because like I guess every course kind of has that journey that you take
Mhm.
people through. If I was somebody coming in or coming to you saying, what is that journey? What are those broad outlines of like what you would say that journey that I would go through with you?
Yeah. So YouTube Rockstars takes them on the journey from being most of them have started YouTube already. Most of them know that they can't, like, they haven't made any progress, or it's been really, really slow progress. So it takes them from not knowing what to do to really having a solid strategy in place to put videos out weekly and know what to do in each video. And then know how to use those videos to sell their own products and services or sell affiliates or whatever they want to sell on the back end, but use those videos to actually make them money.
Right. Yeah, like learning how to become a marketer.
Yeah.
I,
Yeah.
I feel like there's people like you that are like intuitively that like
Yeah.
it just comes. They're like, oh, well, what makes? But there's people that don't, and
No.
that's why people like you exist, and that's so freaking awesome. So, what would you say is like for your course? I know you're working on a lot of other side hustles that you're gonna crush in. But as far as YouTube and your course and everything that you have going on with your personal brand, what is like that 10-year goal? Like, what is your long-term goal? Is it more speaking events, writing books? Like, what does
Mhm.
that look like for you?
Oh, absolutely. So definitely more speaking events, definitely writing books. I didn't ever think I wanted to write a book until the last few years. And then I'm like, I think I want to write a book. But I also don't know where I want that book to go. Do I want it to be business? Do I want it to be like more personal development, but with a side of business? Like I don't know where I want it to go. So I'm kind of like, I've just sat here on it for years now. But definitely those two things. And really just continuing down the path. This world is not going away. The world of being a content creator in whatever the facet is not going away. I mean, we have TikTok now and Instagram Reels and podcasting and YouTube and all of these things where we can like make money from just being on the internet, from like putting our faces out there or our voices out there, right? And so really just continuing down that path and using my business to create generational wealth for my family. So buying real estate. We were talking about that before we hit record. Buying real estate, doing Airbnbs, things like that are the long-term goal that my business is going to be able to afford me to do.
Yeah, exactly. That's awesome. And that's so not like taught in school.
No.
Like generational wealth, investing,
Yeah.
take a dollar here, turn it into $5 5 years later. Like, so all that
Yep.
should go in your book for
Yes.
sure.
For sure.
And I guess the last question here is, if you had one piece of advice, I know this is like cliche, every interview asks this, one piece of advice, for somebody just like on the edge of like wanting to get into, going through content creation or going through your course and, they're just on the edge. What is that one singular piece of advice that you would give somebody?
Yeah, it would really be to buckle in and do it and not like get rid of the excuses because that's a lot of times what holds us back is like I have a southern accent, everybody's going to think I'm stupid. I am too young. I am too old. I am too overweight. I am too skinny. I am too this. I am too that, right? To be valuable. And all of those things are excuses. So being able to like put those out of our head and just go out there and provide the value that you were meant to do in this world is a big deal. Somebody needs to hear it. I teach about things that other people on the internet teach about. You teach about things that other people on the internet teach about. But somebody needs to hear it from us. And if we are making the excuse not to do that because of what we feel, right? Like we feel insecure, we feel scared. We're literally robbing someone else of the opportunity of hearing what they need to hear to do the things they're going to do. So when you think about it like that, you're almost being selfish, not doing the things, you know?
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. I love that. I just got chills. Oh, I seriously could have said it better.
Good. I'm glad.
I'm going to have a link to Jessica's channel down below. Make sure you subscribe to her channel. I can put her Instagram there as well and check out everything she's doing and going on. And if you're trying to learn how to be a content creator and really turn your content into actual sales, so not just like blindly making content, not knowing how to really produce a business out of it, then she's definitely the person that you need to talk to.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jessica, so much. Hopefully we'll have many more.
For sure. Thank you for having me.
Bye, girl.